Are we all set? Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting in order. This is the Tuesday, November 21st council meeting. It is 9 o'clock and we are called to order. For those that are able, if you could please stand under item number 2, take a moment of reflection. Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to declaration, I'm going to go to our communications coordinator to brief the public on how they could participate and give us some other highlights for virtually attending. Thank you.
Through you, Chair Hutchinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter meeting ID 891-5626-2480. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is being held in 2 locations, on Zoom as well as being live streamed on YouTube. Both members of staff and council have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software. Members of council and staff will be raising their hands to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance at any point during this meeting, you can send a chat message to me, Sheila Ferguson, Communications Coordinator, and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson. Okay, item number 3 is declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Is any council member having anything to declare at this time? And seeing none, if one should arise anytime during the meeting, of course, you can declare at that time. Item number 4 is delegations. We do have one delegation today, and I believe Princess is going to be attending virtually. Hello and welcome. And under 4.2, I will hand the mic over to you.
Thank you. Am I screen sharing or are you screen sharing? You're screen sharing. Yay. That's wonderful. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you today about the United Way's Living Wage Study. We've been doing this study for many years. Next slide, please. So this is one of our documents that we produce. We produce this in March of every year, where we look at what the cost of housing is and then what the income that's needed to address this issue. And this predates our living wage work. And we do recognize this is now out of date because the minimum wage has gone up. So when we look at, the market rent for a bachelor apartment at $1,200, you would need to earn an income of $36,000 to keep it at 40% of your income, or $48,000, and so on. And you can see by the bottom 3 squares that currently minimum wage is not enough to meet that 30%. And certainly anybody who has the ODSP housing allowance or the Ontario Works housing allowance can't afford any kind of housing. So next slide, please. So the living wage, what is a living wage? So the Ontario Living Wage Network is a registered charity that works on advocacy and certifies employers who meet the living wage criteria. A living wage is what a worker needs to earn per hour at 40 hours a week in order to make ends meet, their basic budget. So we look at major expenses such as shelter, transportation, childcare, and food, looking at internet access, because that's now, very much a utility that's needed. We have a modest vacation and clothing. There are no savings. There's no RESP contributions. There's no RRSPs. There's no TDSA. There's no, the new account. I haven't got all the letters straight on the new one for the Housing Accelerator Fund. So that's how it's calculated. So next slide, please. So this is the living wage across Ontario. It's we used to do it in kind of social regions. So Bruce Grey had one, Perth Huron would have one, Simcoe would have one. And what the feedback we got from employers was there was too many because each region had a different number. So Living Wage Ontario divided the province into larger cohorts. So we're Perth Huron, Grey, Bruce, Simcoe in terms of our rate. And we're the second highest in Ontario after Toronto, which is very interesting. And next slide will tell you why. So this is our budget. So the first column, going left to right, is our family of 4. Then we have a single parent with 2 children, and then we have a single individual. When we started working with Living Wage Ontario many, many years ago, our living wage calculation that we were doing independently was of a single parent, and the Ontario system was doing a dual income family. And we felt that the most at-risk family was a single income family. So our cohort family was a single parent with 2 children. So through advocacy, we were able to convince the Ontario network that having, various demographics of families was really important to understanding this issue. So the food costs come from public health. This is their nutritious food basket. It is based on that study. Clothing and footwear, a lot of this comes from consumer price index information, Stats Canada, so that it's not just us going out and going shopping. This is coming from other verified sources. So the nutritious food basket from public health comes out with, this is what it costs to feed a family with good nutrition. Can you eat cheaper? Probably. Will you become ill? Absolutely. Rent has jumped significantly for most of Ontario, as it actually has. But we knew using Canada Housing and Mortgages numbers, they were about 3 years, 4 years behind in what their rental data was. And it didn't take into account what it would cost today to go out and rent. It also looked at people who've been in the same apartment for 20 years. And so their rent hasn't gone up in big jumps that we've seen in the last 3 years. So they reinvigorated this calculation using different kinds of data, using rent.ca data as to what was available currently for rent for the size. So, the individual gets a bachelor apartment. This is not, wouldn't it be nice if I had a 2-bedroom apartment as a single person? No, this is all right sized. Utilities come from the Ontario Energy Board. Basic telephone, and that's generally cell phone, because it's much cheaper to run a cell phone than landlines, because then when you move, you don't have to do anything other than update your billing address. Tenant insurance, those of you who've been through some fires with us know how important tenants insurance is. And internet and Netflix. If the pandemic's taught us anything, is that we absolutely positively have to have the internet. And we just gave them Netflix. We haven't given them Disney Plus or any of the other streaming services, just one, because it's very important. And this is the other piece that really impacts our rural community, is the transportation. If you were in a city, if you were Toronto, Stratford, Guelph, you get one vehicle and a transit pass in terms of their calculation. We do not have employment supportive transportation enough to give somebody a monthly pass. The GTR is fantastic, and it definitely works for people that live on the GTR and definitely can use the GTR. Love the GTR, but it's not robust enough yet to really go out and have people be able to use it for consistent employment. And certainly even the transit system here in the city of Owen Sound is not robust enough for employment. So everybody gets a car. It's Oprah. You get a car, you get a car, everybody gets a car. So the 2-parent family gets 2 cars, single parent family gets 1 car, and the individual gets a car as well. And that's another reason why ours gets up so high. Our other category is everything else that's, clothing, footwear, birthday parties, all of that. Our families do look at continuing education. That's always a good thing to keep going. Childcare, we know the childcare is getting messy, and at some point, hopefully, the $10 childcare will impact this, but it's just not widely enough available for it to impact the living wage yet. We know it's coming, and we know that will then drop considerably the costs for families when we can get into $10 daycare. Non-OHIP medical, so very few jobs these days, especially at the minimum wage level, have any benefit program. So this is the purchasing of that program, because people are going to need that. Life and critical illness insurance, and then a 4% contingency. So this is where our cost of living comes in. So that's that budget. Next slide, please. So with the 3 demographics, this is where we end up with the number. So the single person earning $23,000 would be able to meet that budget. In 2022, it was only $21. The single parent with 2 children needs $27 an hour. in order to meet that basic budget. That's up from $23. And again, that's the cost of vehicles, that's the cost of rent, the cost of housing, considerably driving up those costs. And our 2 parents, 2 children is in and around the $22. So Living Wage Ontario takes those 3 calculations, does some magical math that I don't pretend to understand, to come out with an adjusted and weighted living wage for Bruce Gray of $22.73. And that's basically what somebody working full-time, 40 hours, which is also hard to find, to do a basic budget and keep their chin above water, so to speak. Next slide, please. So this is a graphic that we've been shared out. The squares are representative of what those costs are. So 16% on transportation, 15% of the money on food, and then everything else is 26% and the childcare. So this is the graphic that we've gone out with in the community. You can certainly share it in conversations, presentations, or anything like that. This is produced by the Ontario Living Wage Network. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to bring that comparison in of this is data that Public Health released this summer around income levels in our area. So this first left-hand column, Grey County, Owen Sound, and well below the Ontario medium after tax income. But the real scary one is the second from the right, which is the income for women. So if you look at the Ontario, which is the bottom line, it's 32,000, and certainly in Grey Bruce at 26,000. So we are paying our women rather terribly. And when you consider statistically, most of the single parents are female-led. We definitely have male-led single parents, but predominantly statistically, it is female-led. This is why we're seeing a lot of people really struggling in our community, because the incomes are just not there. And with the cost of housing being what it is, this is why we're struggling. Next slide, please. I just wanted to go over a couple of little things that have nothing to do with living wage, just to let you know that our SOS team, which is our supportive outreach team, is at the Knox Church on Thursday afternoons. We have nurse practitioner, harm reduction counselor, community paramedic, and our social navigators there. It's going very well. We're hearing from really positive response from the West Grey Police around this program starting up and being active in place in Durham. We're always, seeing people in Durham, but now that we've got an absolute schedule, so I just wanted to flag that while I had your attention. And one more slide, I believe. So the target population for the SOS is people who are not engaged with traditional health and community social supports, people who are using drugs and substances, people experiencing homelessness or precariousness, or people that are impacted by trafficking. We do have the phone number and the email there to refer out, but certainly the library knows definitely how to connect with it, as well as the local faith-based community. So I think there might be one more slide. Questions?
Thank you, Francesca. That's a very detailed report, and it's actually quite alarming. I do sit at county council, and we've reviewed some of this up there, but it certainly puts things in perspective. And like I said, it's very, very alarming for sure. What I'm going to do is open up any comments or questions from council. Comments or questions on the delegation? Councillor Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Francesca, for your presentation. I believe that West Grey, we designated that we were a living wage employer, I believe, the municipality, which I presume most municipalities are. It's the private sector that I'm sure it will struggle with that. Where do you see this going in the future? Like, there seems to be a bit of a gap between minimum wage and living wage. Do you see a correction coming forward, or where do you see this going? Thank you.
That's up to the will of our politicians and our leaders in our community to talk about this. And we know, as an organization, we absolutely know our mom and pa's are struggling, and this would be a significant burden. But we also know that when your employees have stability, when they know they can pay the rent, when they're at work, focused on work, and not worried they're going to come home and find their utilities disconnected, they're better employees. We saw that with, Chapman province kept the pandemic pay because it probably really stabilized their workforce. And so there's a trade-off as well with that you don't have turnover of staff. So that can save money, but would be really great to see some tax incentives for small business so that if they paid a living wage, which then reduces the burden on the healthcare system because people are generally healthier, burden reduced on mental health services as well, that there's some way of supporting. And then of course universal basic income, so everybody knows regardless of what happens that they can pay their bills and they can pay their rent. A universal basic income is the ultimate support. We did it with CERB. People had $2,000 and we saw a massive increase in the health of many people that were on the low end of the spectrum during that period when we had that. Yeah, I don't want to call it a pilot because it wasn't a pilot. It was an emergency, but it was really impactful that way. So it's really about having that conversation. We've certainly seen the province respond to the economic pressures, having stated no way we're going to go to a $15 minimum wage, and suddenly we're there. And now we're over $16. So we are seeing it's indexed to inflation, but there, it went 10 years without any increases. So there's still a lot of catch up to do on the minimum wage. But I mean, really encourage employers to look at what they can do. Are they having staff turnover? Are they having staff that can't get to work on time because, the car they're driving, won't start because it's a beat up junker because that's all they can afford to keep on the road. It's amazing what happens when people have the stability to pay their bills.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your delegation. Again, there's a world full of knowledge here and a lot of things that obviously we're going to have to all take into consideration moving forward. But other than that, certainly enjoyed your time with us, and I am going to move on the agenda to item number 5. So thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, item number 5 is public meetings. I don't believe there is any today. So then we can move on to item number 6 is comment period. Do you want to read that, Kirk, or do you want me to read that? Okay. You want to read? Okay. So comment period. So if anybody has any comments on any of the items on today's agenda, you can certainly speak to them. And I will go to see if there's anyone virtually that has any comments or questions, again, on today's agenda, any items on today's agenda. Okay, is there anybody in here who'd like to speak? Mr. McNabb, do you have a comment? If you take the podium there, I think you know how to work that button, and you just state your name for the record, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I came back today because I knew the trail thing had been deferred today to find out it had been changed again.
Mr. McNabb, I just get you to state your name for the
Oh, sorry,
record,
Chris
please. Thank you.
McNabb from
We
the
know who
Durban
you are,
District
but-
Trailblazers, sorry. Just a comment, there was one question when I left last time was how wide the gates were and if the drag would fit through the gates. The gates are 13 feet 10. The drag is 8 feet and the machine would be a couple inches wider on either side of the drag. So we do have lots of room to get if we move the gates open. Just a comment, this is kind of a time sensitive thing. We would like to get stakes in. We probably have over 100 kilometers of trail in already. So we've been busy little trailblazers. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. And I believe there's an item on today's agenda that we can discuss that with the council members. So thank you. Okay, item number 7. Clerk Eccleswater, is there any unfinished business? Okay. Item number 8. Adoption of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. 8.1 is the minutes of the special council meeting budget meeting held on October 31st, 2023. So we're looking for a mover on that one, please, as well as a seconder. Councillor Forrester, and is the mover. Councillor Shea is the seconder. Comments or questions on those set of minutes? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. Receive. All those in favor? All members are in favor. None opposed. That motion is carried. Item number 8.2. Again, I'll be looking for a mover or a seconder on that one. Minutes of the regular council meeting held on November the 7th, 2023. I'll be looking for a mover. Councillor Townsend. Seconder, Councillor Noon. Comments or questions on these set of minutes? Call the vote. All those in favor? See, all members are in favor, council members are in favor, none opposed. That motion too has carried. Okay, so item number 9 is committee and board reports. And I do not see any on there. Number 9, so there's nothing to report today. Number 10. So we'll be looking to 10.1 correspondence received for which direction of council is required. There is no correspondence items presented for direction. So we'll be looking for a motion to receive, under 10.2 correspondence received, which is presented for the information to council. So is there anything anybody would like to pull under item number 10? Councillor Hutchison, go ahead. Is it more of a poll or is it a comment, I guess?
Well, I'd like to support number 5, which is the correspondence from Municipality of Wawa resolution support Bill C-310 support tax credit for firefighters. But I was hoping that maybe we could have a comment from our fire chief, which maybe he's not online, I don't know. But will he be online? No. Okay. So I think that's important that we give, because there is such a need and we do struggle with getting enough volunteers that be nice to support that, but maybe I need to pull that in order for us to have a discussion. Number 5.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, we can do that now if it's council's wish to discuss that item. We don't have to pull it first. We'll go back after and then receive everything that hasn't been dealt with.
Okay. All right. So yeah, just to support it, so to give them one other little incentive to become a firefighter. I know we passed a motion in our budget to come up with some clothing subsidies so that they look good as a firefighter and they don't get paid a lot, and they do put, you know, their life on the line every time they go out to a fire. So I'd really like to see us give them any little break we can, and that would be one way of doing it. So
Your Deputy Mayor, I do have a motion crafted if it's council's wish. I have that in consideration of correspondence dated November 7th, 2023 from the municipality of Wawa respecting resolution of support of Bill C-310, support tax credit firefighter. Council directs staff to send a letter of support for Bill C-310 to the Federal Minister of Finance.
Okay, Councillor Hutchison.
that sounds good.
So
Yes.
that you're moving that?
Yes, I'll move that.
For record, seconder, please. Okay, Councillor Forrester, I did see you, Councillor Noon. Any other comments or questions on that item? And we're going to put that at the end, then clerk, batch it in or do it right now. Okay, so we'll call a vote on that, support for that motion that's on the floor. All those in favor, you should raise your hands. I see all members are in favor. There's none opposed, so that motion is carried. Is there any other items under item 10 that wish to be pulled or discussed? Okay, seeing none. So now we'll be looking for a motion to receive all of item number 10, including 10.1, 10.2, correct? Correct. Okay, so we're looking for Councillor Noon, you're going to move that to receive. Seconded by Councillor Townsend. Obviously, I think we've already asked if there's any comments or questions. We kind of covered that already. So we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand. I see all members are in favor. There's none opposed. That motion has carried as well. Okay, item number 11 is staff reports. 11.1, Director of Legislative Services. Go ahead, clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. So this is just a report on respecting the Integrity Commissioner Agreement renewal. In 2017, a joint RFP was facilitated by the County of Grey for the recruitment of an Integrity Commissioner. Principals Integrity was a successful candidate in this recruitment and were appointed for a 5-year term effective January 1st, 2018. The current Integrity Commissioner contract expires on December 31st, 2023, and this report is to seek reappointment of Wes Gray's current Integrity Commissioner for an additional 5-year term effective January 1st, 2024. So the recommendation in the report is that Council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to appoint Principals Integrity as Wes Gray's Integrity Commissioner for a 5-year term effective January 1st, 2024.
Okay, thank you, Clerk Eckles-Feller. So we will be looking for a motion for that direction, correct? So if I could get a mover, please, for that recommendation. Councillor Shea is moving that. Seconder, please. Councillor Hutchinson. Comments or questions on the motion or recommendation on the floor? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand. I see all members are in favor, none opposed. That motion has carried. That'll take us to 11.1.2. Back over to you, Clerk Eckenswiller.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So West Gray receives requests throughout the year to have events designated as being of municipal significance for the purpose of obtaining a special occasion permit to serve alcohol. Implementing a policy will allow for events to be designated consistently based on the same evaluation criteria. And I will note that charities and nonprofit groups do not require a declaration of municipal significance to obtain a public event special occasion permit. So if this policy is adopted, those groups such as the Lions Club, the Legion, any other charity or nonprofit group would not be required to go through this process. So the recommendation in the report is that council directs staff to bring forward bylaws to adopt the municipally significant events policy and amend the fees and charges bylaw to add a $100 application fee for requests for events to be designated as municipally significant for the purposes of obtaining a special occasion permit. And the fee for that is based on the evaluation of those requests. So when those requests come in, staff will then circulate those to commenting partners being police, fire, building, recreation, just to get the feedback on that. It makes our emergency services aware of the event and allows them to identify any health concerns with that. So that fee is intended to be a cost recovery for that service.
Thank you, Clerk Eckenswiller. I'll be looking for a mover for that recommendation. Councillor Hutchinson, seconder, please. Councillor Forrester, is there any comments or questions on this recommendation? Councillor Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, my only concern with the $100 fee is how far along in the process does this fee start? So someone walks in and say, I'm not really sure whether this fits or whether it's gonna it fits in this category, whether it's gonna go through. Do I have to put $100 down before I even start the process, or can I ask some questions before the process moves forward, and it's not going to cost me $100? So I'm a little concerned that people are going to get steered away from it just because they have to put $100 down to even see if it fits. So that's where my question.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. So the policy would be available online. So members of the public who are interested in applying or requesting a declaration of significance would be able to view that policy in advance. Certainly, if a member of the public called staff to ask questions about the policy, we would not say you must pay us $100 first. We would help them through that. So I would not have any concerns with that specifically.
Thank you. Follow up, Councillor Hutchinson? No. Any other comments or questions on this recommendation? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you raise your hand, please. Oh, you do have another question? Okay, so we're going to go back to Councillor Hutchinson. Then I'm going to call the vote, sir.
Sorry, I was just scanning through my notes here. The other part in the policy under delegated authority, 5.1 speaks to the clerk or the written designated as delegated authority to issue a letter designating a public event as municipal significant event. In the past, they've come to council and we've decided. So according to this policy now, it's the clerk that's making the decision. It doesn't come to council. Is that correct?
It's through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, that is correct. So the intent of this policy was to speed up the process for requests for municipal significance. So in the past, unless a request met the council meeting cycle for the event couldn't be deemed municipally significant. And a good example of that is the art gallery. They did an event earlier this year. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't such that they could get their request before council before the event. So they were unfortunately not able to serve alcohol at that event. So this policy, basically it sets out criteria. So the criteria would be the same for all events, and then the delegated authority from council would be vested in the clerk or the clerk's designate to designate that event as municipally significant based on the criteria set out in the policy.
Okay, thank you. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good idea, and it saves waiting, and given that you're going to contact all of our staff, emergency services, I think that's a good idea. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but that is a change. I just wanted to make note of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson. Councillor Shea, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Did you say charities were exempt and don't need to do this?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes. So as per the AGCO, charities and registered nonprofits are exempt from obtaining municipal significance. So they would not have to pay the $100 fee. They would not have to request a declaration of municipal significance for their event.
Because in your example of the art gallery, I think the art gallery is a designated charity. So they might not apply to that example.
Okay, any other comments or questions? I just see this streamlining all the events, moving them along a lot quicker. Any other comments or questions on the recommendation? We do have it moved and seconded. Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I see all members in favor, none opposed. That motion too has carried. Okay, so we're on to item number 11.2, planning staff. And 11.2.1, looking for ZA 25 2023 Bowman, Martin, and Rebecca. I believe CBO Shipwreck, you'll be taking this file.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mary sends her regrets, not able to attend today. Just some highlights on this one is an application for rezoning for an on-farm diversified use to allow a steel cladding manufacturing shop on an agricultural property. You have had before you the public meeting back in September. There were some issues with some questions from neighboring property owners, and the county made a comment requiring what they call a D6 study. We did some review and worked with the applicant and their agent. They completed the study, and they didn't require any additional mitigation because there were no additional structures within 70 meters of the proposed diversified use. So there was no additional requirements. Other than that, the shop is required to be run by the owner of the property. They'll be managed with residents living on the property with a couple of 2 employees. The business is planned to start in 2024. It's a roll forming business that produces metal siding and roofing for barns and sheds. There's little to no noise for the roll forming of the metal siding and roofs. All production happens within the buildings. Other than that, it's a fairly standard application. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Like CBO Shipwreck, yeah, this has been before us for a couple of times. I think a lot of it's we've already asked questions on it, but any council members have any questions pertaining to this? Councillor Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
Sorry, just to clarify, and I think I've asked this question before, but I just want to make sure I got it straight in my head. So I'm curious about the taxing of the on-farm diversified use industry. So is this industry taxed as a normal industry that would be, say, in an industrial park, or is it taxed differently because it's on a farm? And is it recognized as an industry separate from the farm industry, the farming job sort of thing? So that's my question. I think I've asked the Carrie before, but I just need it to be clarified. That's all. Thank you.
I don't know if through you, Deputy Mayor, if Carrie is available to answer that question. I'm not sure on the answer on that.
Pardon me? Is there Director of Finance available? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question there, Councillor Hutchinson?
Yes, question had to do with the taxation of the on-farm diversified use industry. Is it taxed as an industry, or is there something different formula used because it's part of a farm business?
There is a special classification if they fall into an on-farm for this first level. I can't think of the value off the top of my head of the assessment would fall into a separate on-farm category, which would be taxed at the farm rates. Anything above that on the assessment would be at a different rate, different classification.
So I'm not totally clear. So because it's an industry on a farm, it's taxed differently than, say, an industry in an industrial park in a town. Is that correct?
Yes, there is a different assessment classification for an on-farm industry or commercial enterprise.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we will be looking for a motion to bring forward this item for a bylaw, which is on our agenda today. So I'll be looking for a move or two, or Clerk Eckert, do you have the recommendation there, and then if we get a mover and seconder?
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, it's citing consideration of staff report ZA 25-2023, Bauman, Martin, and Rebecca. Council directs staff to bring forward a bylaw to rezone the subject lands from A2 rural, M3 rural industrial, and any natural environment to A2-494 rural with exception, rural A2, and any natural environment.
Thank you. We're looking for a mover then on that. Councilor Forrester. Seconded by Councilor Shea. I did see your hand. But good, Mr. Shea, thank you. Comments or questions on this recommendation? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I see all members are in favor. There's none opposed, so that motion to bring forward is also carried. That takes us to 11.3, community services. 11.3.1, recreation services, trails update, and I will have Cody do, Mr. Hewlett, sorry, do the presentation. They'll be looking for a mover and a seconder to receive. Go ahead, Mr. Hewlett.
Thank you, and through you, as council will remember at the last meeting, I brought forward a report just with some trails updates, infrastructure we wanted to install, including signage. At that same meeting, there is a request from the Durham Trailblazers requesting use of the 1.5 kilometer section of trail in town for use by the Snowmobile Club. Given that request, we will not be able to complete the trail work that we had planned for this year. So requesting that the funds allocated for this year be moved into reserves so that the work can be completed in subsequent year. As well, just a note to council that given the request at the last meeting, we have launched a trail feedback survey that is open and running until the 23rd. So that would be 2 days from now.
Thank you, Mr. Hewlett. Comments or questions? I'm going to look to the left first. Any comments or questions? Seeing none on the right. Councilor Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
It's okay for other people to speak too, you know. My only concern, I agree, it'd be good to have some monies transferred forward so that we have something to start with next year. But my only concern with, depending on how the survey comes back, and if we go ahead with the snowmobile use of the trail, my concern is that we maybe need to put some signage up to say snowmobile trail, pedestrians use at your own risk or something. So I think for maybe insurance purposes, nothing else, that we will need to do some signage just so that we're covered, to make the snowmobilers aware too that this is a pedestrian trail besides a snowmobile trail. So maybe we'll have to put something together on that. Cody, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Through you, yes, absolutely. If council did move forward with the request from the Durham Trailblazers, I would highly recommend that some sort of signage be installed to notify all users, both snowmobile as well as walkers, hikers, birders, that sort of thing, of the potential trail use. But that signage would be fairly low cost to install.
Anything further, Councilor Hutchinson? No. Any other members of council have any questions? So I'm going to go to Clerk Eckert-Swiller, I apologize, to read the recommendation. I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, it's citing consideration of staff report, Recreation Services, West Gray Recreation Trails Update. Council directs staff to transfer the current 2023 unspent trails budget to reserve for future trail development.
Can I get a mover, please? Councilor Townsend. Looking for a seconder, Councilor Noon. Comments or questions on the recommendation? Councilor Noon, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just for clarification, then, when you said unused portion, that would mean pending if the trails is incorporated with it, that those costs would be removed before the final transfer to reserve would be done. Just for clarification.
Mr. Hewlett?
Thank you, and through you, I'll defer to Director Martin to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if we were to do the signage as Councillor Hutchinson had spoke to, we would be able to use those funds, and then any unspent funds by year end, we would just transfer to reserve for work next year.
Director Martin, you're online, you might as well make a comment here, please.
Yes, that's correct. It would be just any unspent funds if we do proceed to install and order signage. It would be if there's any unspent funds left.
Okay, thank you. So we do have the recommendation. We have it moved and seconded. Is there any other comments or questions on this recommendation? Everyone's clear on it? Yeah, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, if you raise your hand, please. I see all members are in favor, none opposed. That motion too has carried. That takes us to item number 12, questions. So in accordance with the West Gray procedural bylaw, members may request a clarification or updates on previous agenda items. Any council members have any comments or questions on past agenda items? Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and Mr. Hewlett's in the room, so that helps. The trees that we planted over there, and I've asked the question before, they're going to get staked before the snow flies?
Yes.
You? Any other comments or questions on past agenda items? Councillor Shay.
Thank you. We've had a couple of discussions about the Trails and Recreation Master Plan during the budgeting process, and I became a little bit confused about the scope of the master plan. So I was wondering if at a future meeting we could revisit the intention of the master plan and the scope and what we would be looking forward to receiving as a result of that process.
Madam CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Shay. We could bring that to the next budget meeting on December 12th.
Thank you. Oh,
I'd rather discuss it outside of the context of budget. I think we've sort of approved the budget for, or we have included this in the budget, but just as a general sort of administrative council governance sort of discussion.
so future agenda item, Councillor Shay. Any other comments or questions on, again, on past agendas or including today's for that matter? Seeing none, then we're going to go to item number 13, and that is bylaws. So Clerk Atkins, do you read these or as a rule, or if you want to? Okay, so I'm going to go to 13.1. I'm going to get to Clerk Atkins to announce the bylaw, and then we'll be looking for a mover and a seconder. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So bylaw number 2023-124 is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held today.
Could I get a mover, please? Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Forrester. Comments or questions on the bylaw? Again, this is 13.1. Seeing none, all those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. See all members are in favor. There's none opposed. That has carried. That takes us to 13.2. Again, Clerk Atkins, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Bylaw number 2023-125 is a bylaw to amend the fees and charges bylaw respecting lottery licensing fees.
Clerk Atkins, can I get a mover for that bylaw, please? Councillor Noon, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Comments or questions on this bylaw? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Everybody's in favor. There's none opposed. That motion too has carried. That'll take us to item number 13.3. Clerk Eckertswaller, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Bylaw number 2023-126 is sale of land being part of PIN 37239-0103 to Guy Robert Koulis.
Thank you. I see that moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Forrester. Everyone clear on that bylaw? I gotta sharpen you up there, Mr. Hutch. Okay, we'll call the vote then. All those in favor, raise your hand. I see all members are in favor. There's none opposed. That too has carried. And the final bylaw on today is 13.4. Clerk Eckenswaller, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and it's bylaw number 2023-127, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaws at a 37-2006 as amended as it relates to ZA 25, 2023.
Thank you, Clerk Eckenswaller. Could I get a mover for that one, please? Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Shay. Comments or questions on that bylaw? Seeing none, everyone can raise their hand that's in favor. See all members are in favor, none opposed. That too has carried. Item number 14 on today's agenda is new business. Is there any new business? Looking. Councillor Hutchinson.
Maybe I've been asking some questions, but maybe it'd be a good time for our CAO, maybe just to give us a little, and I see our Cody's left us, but a little update on our upcoming volunteer and sports banquet that's coming forward. I know we're getting lots of
Councillor Hutchinson, that'll have to come under announcements.
Oh,
This is
okay.
new business.
Okay.
So that, now, so I apologize. That'll be under announcements and would be past agenda items. Okay. So do you have any new business to bring forward, sir? No. Thank you. Seeing none, nothing under new business. We will go to item 15, announcements. Then I'm going to go over to Councillor Hutchinson. Do you have anything to announce, sir?
Ditto. No, just because there is quite a bit of interest and I'm interested and I think the public is getting involved, that maybe just a little update on the upcoming banquet and where we're at, and maybe a little bit of few details so that we're all aware. Okay.
So if we could just maybe get you to hold that thought. We're going to bring Mr. Hewlett back because I think it is under his portfolio. And we may have to re-ask that. So if we just pause for a moment, unless you have something else.
Something else, if that's okay.
Councillor Hutchinson, go ahead, sir.
I'd just like to make an announcement of congratulations to one of our residents, Alex McGilvery, who is the son of Jennifer and Jim McGilvery, who live in the town of Durham. Won a bronze medal with Team Canada under 18 in a World Cup tournament in Mexico. Alex was also chosen as the third baseman for the all-world team. So he did really well, and I believe he hit a 2-run home run to give them the win over the US 2-1 in the bronze medal game. So great little athlete, lives in town, and so I just wanted to shout out for that. And I do have one other announcement, but I can hold it for a second.
Well, just might as well do the announcement, then we'll circle back to the question too.
Okay, well, the other one has to do with the Durham Christmas tree lighting, and I see on Facebook, we do have an announcement of different tree lightings in West Gray. Just want to make a correction on the Durham tree lighting. It is 6 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. on the Facebook page. So if we can get that changed so that it's the right time. So it is 6 p.m. at the Lions Park. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you did have a question now from Mr. Hewlett. We're going to go right back to where you started. Yeah, thank you.
It's been a while. Yes, Cody, just looking for an update maybe on the upcoming banquet for volunteer and sports recognition in terms of where we are and maybe some details about what that looks like. Thanks.
Thank you for the question, and through you. Yes, we will be hosting the West Gray Sports and Volunteer Recognition Night. That'll be held on Wednesday, December 6th at the Durham Arena Hall from 7 to 9:30. And basically, it's just an event to be able to recognize our outstanding athletes within West Gray, as well as our volunteers who help to contribute to the community of West Gray. The nominations have been rolling in. They've been picking up as we're approaching the deadline, which is again the 23rd in about 2 days. We have probably around 20 so far, so it should be a good night. I would recommend to council, if you can, please share it throughout all of your channels and nominate anybody you think is deserving of an award, because we'd like to make sure to recognize as many individuals as we can at the night.
Oh, so if I can just clarify what the evening looks like. So will there be a set time that we maybe start the presentations and like there's going to be finger food or whatever, right? So Yeah, so there'll be a set time and we'll roll through the volunteers and then the sports or whatever. I'm just curious, when it comes to nominations, if we get many teams, then are we expecting the whole team's going to show up sort of thing, or a representative from the team? I don't know if there's any, if that's going to be the case, but just curious about that.
So the timeline for the event is still being finalized, but it will start with a bit of just a general reception with some light refreshments served, punch cookies, little dessert squares, that sort of thing. And then we will move into the awards ceremonies. And for group nominations, the ones that we receive, will be inviting the whole group to attend if they can. If they would just like to send one representative, that would work as well. But it's open to anybody who is nominated. So if there's a whole team nominated, we would of course invite them all. As well, nominees are happy to attend with their partners, families, friends as well.
And so what does the invite look like? Like when you get nominations, then you're going to get an address and you're going to have to send out, we're sending out an invite to each individual that's nominated. Is that correct?
That's correct. We will be doing individual reach out to all nominees. So as part of the nomination form, we collect an email as well as a phone number. So we'll be doing individual communiques out to the nominees.
Councillor Hutchison, go ahead, sir.
Is the event open to the public? So do we have walk-ins? Like if I nominate someone, let's say I'm not on council, but I nominate someone, maybe I want to go and see that person receive a certificate or whatever that may be. Is that okay?
Through you, yes, the event is open to anybody who would like to attend.
Okay, so, yeah, Councillor Hutchison, one more, or, oh, thank you, sir. Councillor New, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just for clarification then, so this event isn't going to be held like past recognitions for volunteers, where the municipality kind of did up a listing of all volunteers in West Grey, that this is just based on nominations for individuals. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hewitt. Okay, so under announcements, number 15, is there any other council members that have any announcements, comments, or questions? Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to item number 16, closed session. Clerk Atkins, there is no closed session today. Okay. Item number 17, report from closed session. Obviously, we don't have a report because we did not go into closed. And Clerk Atkins, could you please confirm that we've completed all items on today's agenda before I adjourn?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, all items on the agenda have been completed.
Okay, thank you. So item number 18, I show 9:52 a.m. and I will announce that we